Hey y'all, this is Bo Stevens from Bo Talks Harmonica. Um, Last SPAH in August, I asked a bunch of people, why do some players get good and other players become great? And I'm talking specifically about you have two players and maybe they really play maybe a similar amount. They have a similar number of hours, but one has gotten really good really fast. And someone like Nick Clark comes to mind, right? Who was like really good when they were like 19 years old. So I asked a bunch of different people this question, and I'm going to kind of just go through the answers that I got. I talked to Mighty Mike, and his answer was to play with other people a lot. There was a clarinet player that played with Mariano Massalo, and he said that some people have this crippling perfectionism. When they're playing, they can't get their head out of edit mode. And when they sit down to practice, they're overwhelmed. They feel like they need to fix everything when they really only need to fix one thing at a time. And I really like this idea. I wish I was a little more perfectionist than I am, but I've definitely seen when someone can't even get started because they're too they just everything has to be exactly right, exactly perfect. And I think that like when you're too worried about mistakes, you can't tap into that soul magic. You can't reach into your heart and play the stuff that people remember forever. And even when you are really, really technically perfect and there's not that soul magic, there's not that heart, um, you know, it's a job well done, but I think people don't, it doesn't hit the same way as from the heart. I talked to Shane Eli Sager. He said that you want to choose a lot of different influences and fuse them. So you can kind of like fuse, copy, create something new. You play a 12 bar like Little Walter. After extensively studying Little Walter, you play a 12 bar like Little Walter, and then maybe you play a different 12 bar like William Clark, and then this third 12 bar, you start to like fuse these two styles, these two personalities. And you come up with things that are new. He mentioned, I asked about song studies. How do you really integrate these song studies? So an issue that I have is that I've studied these different songs, learned them note from note, top to bottom, and I can play them, but they don't necessarily like make it into my improvisation. Uh, and so he said, you take the head of something like With a Tear in My Eye, bum, bum, ba da da dum, dum, ba da dum, and you might like cut it, shorten it, start it halfway through, maybe you expand it, lengthen it, maybe you just change it completely. Maybe you're playing this song, you're really hanging on the major pentatonic. The song is a very major pentatonic song. And then you just slam this flat five in there, or this flat seven at the right moment to really change the flavor suddenly. And he said, you can break and transform the licks that you've picked up from a song study. So the way that I tried to implement this last night was I was working on The Other Side of Town by William Clark. And then I just put on a backing track that was similar. And these licks started to come out a little bit differently because the song was a little bit different. So a tip I got from Dennis Grunling was to take these licks but play them in completely different contexts, different speeds, different feels. Take a straight eighth lick and play it over a shuffle or vice versa. And I think that made a lot of sense to me, that would begin to really transform these licks and make them very available to you, right? You don't want to only know how to play a lick right after the lick that they played before that lick in the song study. You want to be able to just play it on beat 3, on the end of beat 1. You want to be able to bring it in with a different feel, with a different rhythm, in different contexts. Okay, Rodrigo Eberienos. I hope I'm saying that right, buddy. He said, fine attention to the little details, to record and listen to yourself, really pay attention to the way you start a note, the attack of the note, and bend accuracy, to really work on these bends extensively. I have another video about bends practice with a Shruti box and then with common melodies that that you know well, and so are good reference points for the pitch for those notes. Michael Rubin, I really liked Michael Rubin's answer. Have the intention to be good. I heard about a study years ago that players who are committed to playing an instrument for their entire life get better faster than people without that same commitment who practice the same amount of time. That was really interesting to me. That something in the subconscious, I don't know, says, hey, like this stuff you're working on, it matters because you're going to do it till you're 90, right? Michael said, lean into your strengths, which may be different from other people's strengths. I think that's super important. And I would also add to that myself, lean into your passion, right? Your strengths and your passion, the stuff that you like. You know, if you don't want to sound like this player, then this player or that song, then maybe you don't need to study that as much. Maybe you still do. Maybe it's too foundational and you can't ignore it. But I think when you align your strengths and your passion, you start working hard, effectively, quickly. The last thing he said, and I think this is maybe the most important thing, stay obsessed. Find ways to be obsessed and to practice effectively. So if you can get excited and stay excited so that you keep practicing, then we all know we need to practice, right? We all know we need to do the work. The hard thing is figuring out what is the work and how do I make myself do the work, right? The self-management aspect. So I think staying obsessed, and lately for me, it's a song study that gets me back on track, that gets me excited again, that gets me putting in the time. And not only the time, but challenging myself on stuff that I don't already know how to play. All right, y'all, that's it for this little video about some great players' perspectives on how to become great. Thanks for listening.